JB here. Hope everyone's doing that. November 18th, 2024, 8:55 on this fine Monday. Talk really quick about the market, some names I'm looking at, and go from there. But take a look at the futures. We're solidly in the green overnight. I've paired some of it pretty much flat here this morning. Asian markets were somewhat in the red overnight, and Europe markets are mixed this morning, and that's on the heels of last week's end of the week sell off Friday. S&P closed down over 1.3%. The Nasdaq a little more than that, and small caps took it on the chin. Small caps were down over 4% last week. Nasdaq down over 2.5%. S&P down 2%. So is that just some consolidation of the big post-election move? I mean, you take a look at small caps; they're still substantially higher than where we were uh, after the rally. Well, pre-election. So is it some consolidation, or is it the start of a bigger pull? I always try and look at some of the the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So for me, the good was that the VIX was under 15, and we've been from historically high levels pre-election. But then, unfortunately, on Friday, the VIX went all the way up to 17 before pulling back. Um, and the yields took a breather on Friday. So kind of want to see the yields start to reverse. Hopefully at some point the VIX remain around 16, 15, 14. I think that'd be great. And then the US dollar, which is right near multi-year highs, probably don't want to see that get too ahead of itself just yet, because if that happens, maybe there's some, possibly create a narrative where we have some kind of pullback here. All right, so that's the S&P, that's the VIX, and nice melt. All the way, I was talking about on Thursday when the markets were weak, or not weak, but they were in the red, and the VIX was down like 3%. We were down to 13. So it was like I use that analogy like it was like a flat tire. The air just kept coming out, and then sure enough, I spoke too soon, and we had that reversal on Friday. Take a look at 10-year yields, pretty much flat on Friday, but they're rising again today. So hopefully not too much, and maybe that reverses into the afternoon, and we can get a bid in some of the stocks. So that's overall market. Just also on the SPY, I finally added another annotation on my chart. The 585 handle came down to that on Friday. It's like we gapped lower, 589 or so, and then it was just a slow melt, broke 585 quick, and then found a bid into the afternoon. That 585 from back in the middle of October as well was resistance. So that support resistance, I think that offers a nice little spot there if we do get some more weakness today. Hopefully that holds, and then we can work our way back up near the 590, and then possibly back over 600 at some point. So that's individual markets. Uh, Take a look at some individual names. So I got those first solar spec calls Thursday. I won't call them spec calls, but into this week after the subsidy news or reports that the $7,500 EV credit was going away, and there was no talk of solar. And there's concerns there that some of the subsidies with solar were going to go away, which is net bearish, or you could be construed net bearish for some of the solar names. And you saw solar names selling off post-election as well. But then you saw the reversal, and first solar started to go. And I talked about its earnings reversal, a strong move back at the end of October. And I look at the chart. I said, "Wow, this probably has a chance going to 215." So sure enough, what does it do? Friday morning rallies, breaks over 200, gets all the way to 205, and then reverses course. So thankfully, or luckily, able to lock some of my calls in for over 100% to cover some costs, a little profits. But then I held on the way down. And the thing with First Solar, it's volatile. So it's a name that could be up 5, 6, 7% in one day, and then another 5% the next day. So I'm not ruling out the possibility of a big move into the end of the week. It's pretty much flat here in the pre-market. If it does show strength, I might look for some more calls, because I think that story is over. It's overdone. Like, I think the sell-off has been overdone, and I think there's an opportunity here to play for more upside. So I'll continue to look for opportunities on First Solar. Lemonade, what to say about Lemonade? The market was finding pressure all day on Friday, and Lemonade squeezed at the open all the way up to 35. I think that's 2-year highs on Lemonade before pulling back, still closing up nearly, actually 5%, 33.30. It closed at, gapping a little bit here in the pre-market, actually not too much. Still have my December strikes, already locked a lot of the profits in on that one. If it breaks over 35 and holds, I'm going to look for some spec calls, maybe for move over 40 in the coming days. On the flip side, that 31 handles kind of the spot where I'll pull the ripcord and close the rest of my December strikes. And maybe I'll revisit. It's a volatile name, so I don't want to be in a spot where I add the strikes and it reverses. So I'll probably just be patient on that one, adding more strikes if it does break 31. That's Lemonade. NetEase added some earnings, the earnings day in the afternoon. for a possible continuation up into the 90s. Then on Friday, it gapped higher, gave back the gains, trade down into the 83s, then bounced for the rest of the day, closed in the green up 1%. And it's gapping again here in the pre-market. Nomura, however you pronounce it, reiterating their buy rating, raised their price target to 102 from 100. Not really a big deal, but considering where the stock is trading, could just help support it, give it a little bid. I think it trades over 90 in the coming days. We'll see how the calls are today. They're kind of flat. The calls I added last week, if I get a chance to close them out to cover costs for 80, 90, or 100% today, I'll do that and then just hold the rest. But I really like this one for a bounce. Not much here to add on gold. I think gold was down six sessions in a row, closed down again on Friday, and then it's bouncing here today. The gold futures are up over 1.5%. At some point, it was going to bounce. Lucky, thankfully I didn't add more strikes on Friday, so I'll wait for this bounce. I'm not sure today or maybe tomorrow I'll look to finally get into those minors, because I don't think this move to the downside in gold is over by any means, and I think it's going to go down to test at least under 2,500 or even 2,400 in the before the year is out. That's Netties there. Not much here to add about SE as well. Disappointing after that big earnings move. And then it, pulled back post earnings day, but still was up 10%. And then it's given back almost all those gains. I was a little concerned about a gap fill down to 97. It doesn't look like that's going to happen here this morning. It's gapping up a little bit. It was almost at 90. It's almost at 104. It's down at 103 here. I still think this trades over 130 in the coming weeks and months. So I'll be patient. I'm not going to try and time the bounce, but if it does show some strength and maybe recoups 110, maybe I'll look for some more strikes to play for that move to 130. Michael Dell, the CEO of Dell, tweeted after the close, last evening about shipping the first servers, liquid cooled PowerEdge servers, the first in the world to ship the NVIDIA GB200 server racks. So to me, that's net bullish considering that overhang with Supermicro. So you see it trading. It was 130 this morning, and then it's been rallying. It's right here 134.60. Dell has a tendency to do its run up at the open and then reverse gains and then find a support and then bounce for the rest of the day. So I might wait for that. We'll see if it has any weakness after the open, sells off some of this gap. Then I might look for some inexpensive. Well, they're not inexpensive because the call premiums are pretty high on Dell right now. But you also have NVIDIA reporting earnings Wednesday after the close. I don't know how much sympathy move that would have in Dell, but certainly if they report a big, they're going to report a big earnings report. It's going to be big. It's probably going to be another beat and raise like they always do. It's just a matter of how much is the beat? Is it going to be enough to give the bulls more fuel to the fire, or even if it's a big beat, the stock might still sell off. So I'll be a little wary, but I like the news here with Dell, and I think it should be trading higher on the Supermicro sit fiasco that's going on right now anyway. So don't be surprised if I add some Dell strikes. And then Target. So Target's not a name I've really traded in the past on earnings, maybe 5 years ago. I have to look back to see the last time I traded Target. But you see the move back up in August. It ramped higher with the market in the middle of August, and then it had earnings, and the stock soared the most it soared in, I don't know, a couple of years after its earnings report, all the way up to 167.50, and then it gave most of it. I wouldn't say gave most of the gap back, but it's down here 152.50. So $15 off those highs, or $14 could be an opportunity, especially if it's a decent report. I think the stock might work its way back up into 160. So don't be surprised if I add some calls there. I'm trying to think of some of the other names here. Unfortunately, with the Health and Human Services appointment of RFK Jr., that's put a big hit on biotech names. And some of it, I think, is just uncertainty, right? And uncertainty is never good for markets. A lot of folks are speculating on what the impacts could be on some of the big pharma names, FDA approvals. What does it mean for all companies that produce vaccines? And I think a lot of that is probably overreaching in regards to how the market reacted, but that's just typical when there's uncertainty. Till there's certainty, some of these bio names still might remain under pressure, but unfortunately it brought down most of the market in the biotech sector. So see how that plays out in the next couple of days after its big sell-off last week, and there could be some nice opportunities in the biotech sectors. Don't be surprised if I nibble some of the names. I mean, I was looking, VRTX was a name I used to follow, well, not used to, but followed a couple of years ago when it was in 200s. it sold off all the way down to 458 on Friday. I was actually looking for possible spec puts, and now it's bouncing here this morning, or well, it's at 465. It's pretty flat. That could be a name I look for possible spec calls on. I think that's it. Win. Nice news. Well, that filing last week, there could be some update on the Houston Rockets owner on his what his motive is for adding to his stake on Win. Is it just a passive stake, collecting the dividend? Right. Win has a pretty decent dividend, or is he going to be an activist in regards to the company, or is this just the preamble? Is this just the start of some kind of M&A activity? So I'm hoping it's the latter. But maybe, and I forget who was on CNBC said he's going to try and reach out to the Houston Rockets owner. Maybe he'll have some comments this week. If he does, I certainly could spark shares of Win. That 95 and change handle, that's a 200, I think it's 200-day moving average. Once it gets through that, I think it's off to races. So that's it, folks. We have 24 minutes open. Let's have a great week. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.